Secretary Wilkie, Dr. Stone, thank you all very much for your service at the department, your service in the military, and continued service to our veterans. It's probably my highest honor to represent the veterans of the 6th Congressional District in this seat, and it's a big responsibility as well. And we established a Veterans Coalition that's now over 1,000 veterans in the 6th Congressional District of Kentucky, and they do a great job giving our office information and feedback about how we can best serve them. And Secretary, you mentioned in your testimony that the VA is now engaged in the greatest transformative period of its history, and I think that's in part largely because of the work that this Congress did in the last Congress passing the VA Mission Act. And in this Congress, we will have the responsibility, the important responsibility of overseeing your department in the implementation of the Mission Act. Mr. Secretary, in your testimony, you mentioned the transition from the various programs established under VA Choice to the new streamlined Veteran Community Care Program. Can you describe how the new Veteran Community Care Program is going to be better for the veterans in the 6th District of Kentucky and around the country? We know that in January you issued the proposed access standards, so I think our veterans understand what those are. But beyond that, beyond those proposed access standards, what can our veterans expect in terms of the transition from choice to the new community care?
The first step in creating a modern 21st century healthcare administration. When it comes to community care, there were 7 different community care programs. This Congress, the last Congress, culled that down to 1, so it's understandable to veterans, to providers, to the local communities. We now have in place the contracts for 4 regions in the country who will be able, the companies that we have the contracts for, will be able to pay our local hospitals, our small town doctors, what they are owed. Legacy payments will be first. We cannot offer choice, greater choice, unless our small towns are taken care of. Without that, then the system collapses in on itself. I am particularly cognizant of rural America, not just the Great West, where we're talking about expanse of hundreds and hundreds of miles, but also places that I'm familiar with, having grown up in North Carolina, rural Tennessee, rural Kentucky, rural North Carolina, allowing our veterans, when they need it, to go to our small town hospitals. So consolidating the programs into one, easily understandable, paying our bills, and training our local doctors, nurses, clinics to be part of our greater system. Without that, choice does not work. The second part of this, and it is the part that is not seen, is the greater business transformation of the department. HR, supply chain. I've talked about General Mattis. General Mattis and I decided that because we kept reading stories about VA doctors not having the right equipment, and some doctors had nurses having to run across a parking lot to another hospital to get that equipment, we decided that the best thing for us would be to join up with the Defense Logistics Agency and operate a modern supply chain, computerized, programmed supply chain, so that we distribute what we need to our doctors and nurses and medical professionals across the country when the need is there. Without that, we can do all the reforms we want, but if the doctors and the clinics and the hospitals don't have the supplies, it doesn't matter. And Dr. Stone has anything.
And Mr. Secretary, if I could just interject one kind of snippet of feedback that we're getting from our veterans is the frustration that they had with choice was the additional layer of bureaucracy going through the contractor, and then the medical records getting lost from VA to the contractor, and then finally getting to a community care provider. In my remaining time, Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, one final question, and that is, as you know, Veterans diagnosed with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury often become isolated and withdrawn as they try to manage their trauma experience. Studies have shown that programs such as adaptive sports help recovering veterans with engagement, independence, and quality of life, which are also important factors in preventing veteran suicide. As you may know, I represent the horse capital of the world, and am particularly aware of the benefits that equine-assisted therapy can have in adaptive sports. And my question is, in what ways is your department looking to expand adaptive sports therapies, and in particular equine-assisted therapy?
So we currently have 60 active equine programs across the system. Very effective, as you stated, and just in recognition of the time, we are actively looking to expand it as we are all other adaptive sports.
Thanks. I look forward to working with you. Yield back.
Gentleman's time expired. I'd like to